Hello everyone and welcome back to either the MyFootballWriter YouTube channel or the MyFootballWriter Spotify account, whatever way you are choosing to watch or listen to the newest episode of the MyFootballWriter podcast. Yes, we're running out of other video ideas. Sorry about that. But anyway, a lot has happened over the last 7 days. International football came to a close and then Norwich City had to travel to Swansea City on Saturday afternoon. And we're going to really, the majority of that is going to be sort of debulking what happened in what was a dire display in South Wales. But I'm Freddie Humphrey-Wakefield and I'm joined by Jack Wright and Will Grant. There's no Henry Miller this week. He's off in Dimitris Yanoulis land. He's gone on holiday to Greece. But we're back to proper podcasting this week. It's not a long-winded quiz with hopefully no laggy Wi-Fi. Fingers crossed on that one. But first things first, Jack, Will, how have you both been since we had that mega quiz, which was won by... I can't remember who won that.
I'll give you a clue. It wasn't won by Will. Your bucket hat is in the post. It's not in the post. I haven't ordered it yet. It will come. It will come before Christmas. I promise you. But no, it's been a very weird week for me. I, for the first time ever, had a tweet that got over 2,000 likes. Yeah,
Ooh, well done.
That was courtesy of our lovely Barclaysman era that was going mad on Twitter /X/whatever you call it this week. I even got a follow back from Darren Huckabee. I know. I'm excited. That was literally the highlight of my week. Will, what about you?
I can't really match that, mate. I'm still a bit annoyed about my performance last week in the quiz. But I feel like I've watched a bit of League Basketball, and that has kind of made me slightly more happier. So I've recovered somewhat, but I'm still so annoyed about my performance. But I'm still gassed that I got the Aaron Wilbraham shout right. So you know what? I'll take it. Small wins, and unfortunately, Norwich couldn't get another small win at a weekend. But unfortunately, we march on, and that's the only thing we can do. So I'm great, mate. Look, it's very, very good times ahead. I like to think anyway. But let's see how Norwich get on in a few weeks coming up.
No, well, touching on that Swansea game, that was from what we saw at Coventry, which was pure footballing ecstasy. It then became pure footballing agony, especially for a Mankwa Forson who diverted the ball into his own net within the first 5 minutes, and Norwich didn't really have any sort of response in a way, apart from until the last 10 minutes when Borja Sainz thought it would be funny to miss a few chances, but just really devoid of any spark, a real sort of no one wanting to grab the game by the scruff of the neck. There was no real, just no desire, it seemed, which is so strange considering the big contrast in performances from the 2 weeks prior, where Norwich, albeit they only had one shot in the game, and funnily enough, Sainz scored it, but it was deflected on its way in. But it doesn't matter how they go in, and that game was. Despite that, Norwich were completely in full control. They didn't even need to get out of second gear, really, to win that game. But against Swansea, they didn't get into second gear. It was just so strange. It was, again, the sort of typical away performance that this side has gotten used to, really, albeit there's a few new boys who are still young, and maybe that could be a big factor. They still have to adapt to the English game. They've only played 5 games this season, but 5 points from the opening 15 available, and just didn't really seem like if Norwich played for another 90 minutes, they were ever going to score in that game. It was arguably a big cause for concern. But if you saw on our Twitter account, I knew that was going to happen as I got the score prediction right. So I'm in mixed emotions. Yeah, exactly. A stern look on the face of Jack with a nice.
What was Jack pitching again, by the way, guys? What was it? Was it 5-2 Norwich?
Yeah, no. So yeah, well, let's talk about that. Actually, let's first talk about that. A 5-2 win predicted by Jack. What? What was happening there?
Well, I just thought, goals will be flying. Sarge is on fire. But I thought we'd be quite leaky in defence. I was wrong. Freddie, once again, much like most of the quiz questions, you were right. I hope you're really happy. But no, it was a quite frustrating performance in the end. I think frustrating is probably the best adjective to describe it. Just a lot of kind of mistakes on the ball. Not a lot of kind of really sort of clear-cut chances right until the end. It just kind of feels to me like the system's on its way, right? Thorup ball is a work in progress, and it is kind of what we should really expect throughout the rest of this season. I think the general rhetoric from people watching this was that it was two teams that were pretty average, that are going to finish in a pretty average position in the league. And it was a case of which team would be slightly more or less average. Will, am I completely wrong on that, or what was your assessment? Obviously, I heard you on the Pinken giving your assessment last night. I hope you haven't. You've saved all your good punditry for us.
I wish. Yeah, I think it's one of those games where I think what you actually said. Actually, it feels like two mid-table teams playing each other in quite a difficult period. Actually, I kind of made maybe some might see it as more of a tin pot point, but I kind of made a point that if Norwich were to choose any team to go away to after quite like a tight international turnaround, I think Swansea away will probably be top of the list really in terms of most least wanted. And I know it isn't quite a great excuse, but I feel like when you've got so much young players and they've just put in such like a really good performance away at Coventry, it feels like you want to like be like right back at home again and want to try and build off that momentum. It just feels like right now, and it feels like as we've actually talked about this, really it's just like lack of consistency, and I feel like it's definitely a topic which we kind of like expected during towards the season. I think all of us here were kind of hoping that these players would like click automatically. And that when they go away at Coventry was like quite a lot of it was quite a big statement win, wasn't it? And unfortunately, the game couldn't be backed up away against Swansea. And it just feels like right now there's quite a lot of I wouldn't say problems as such, but I think there's quite a lot of talking points in terms of the team selection and kind of where we go from here. I know we're probably going to touch on it all later, really, but it just feels like to me that attacking dynamic just isn't there quite right now. It feels like there's too much questions that need to be answered. I know we've got Sargent, and he's a very, very reliable goal scorer at its level. But even Chris Grobson in commentary, I think he scored 3 away goals in like this year. So there's still some kind of problems there for not like away from home actually scoring goals away. It feels like to me, I don't know. It just feels like a team which kind of needs the fans at home to really, really play well, and away from home, we might have to kind of suffer a little bit. And I feel, and it just feels like right now there's like quite a lot of problems that I need to be addressing. I know we're touching it a bit later, but as we saw earlier, I mean, the technical play from the Perez was quite a concern, and it feels like that was quite a strong part of our game against Coventry as well. So I think when you're playing well in 20-minute spells, again, it feels like it needs to be like backed up more across the game. And unfortunately, that wasn't the case against Swansea. I thought they were very, very good in open 20 minutes, but it just feels like Norwich just need that kind of just something to kind of kickstart them into gear, really. And it kind of came too late. Obviously, again, we saw like quite a promising Ono Hernandez cameo, but it just feels like it needs to start sooner for Norwich. And I just feel like we've got so much young players right now. Yes, we have to be patient, and yes, it's a transition, but it feels like we also need to see something as well, because I'm kind of feeling right now, obviously, Schwartau showed promise, Forson showed promise, but right now it feels like none of our attackers are actually in form. I don't know if that's quite a harsh kind of take to say, especially after quite a good win away at Coventry, but it just feels like Thorson, since that Palace injury, it's kind of gone a bit cold, and that isn't what we kind of like need right now. And it feels like there's quite a lot of spaces in that starting 11 right now, which could be one.
No, it is a cause for concern. Norwich don't have many goal scorers. They've scored 4 goals in 5 games in the league. Only 2 players have scored for them. It's a clear cause for concern. If you're scoring less goals in games played, chances are you're probably going to lose a lot of games, which is not something that a team of this caliber should be doing. They should not be losing more games, arguably, than what they're winning. They proved that last season under what many fans are claiming to be a worse manager. So we know how evident the quality is, but you said it perfectly. This team away from home is, to put it nicely, they're a bit of a shambles. They're away from home. Norwich can't seem to do it right. It's 7 wins in 28 championship away games across last season and now. That is atrocious. I may be getting a bit carried away. That is awful. I mean, that is relegation sort of form, really, away from home. That is really, really bad. Of course, at home, we haven't lost at Carrow Road since November of last year, which is amazing. We've almost gone a year unbeaten at home. I mean, that's absurd. That is in itself a form of a side who is going to be right up there at the top of their division. But it's just so interesting that at home, Norwich just seem to be this dominant force who can control a game. And if they don't win a game, they're arguably unlucky to not win it. But away from home, they have to put in the performance of a lifetime for some of the players, maybe, like at Coventry, and just be on it the whole 90 minutes and not barely have any slip-ups to actually win the game. It's very odd that this side over the last 12 months just cannot seem to do it away from home. It's just amazing at the fact that just can't seem to do it. And then, well, even for goal scorers, as was already said, 2 goal scorers who between them only have 4 goals in the opening 5 games. We say it pretty much. We've said it for the last few weeks. Where do the other goal scorers come from in this team other than Sainz and Sargent? It really is becoming it becomes a bit more of a rising concern every week, because the only other players to have scored this season is Onel Hernandez with 2 and Abu Kamara, who doesn't even play for the club anymore. So Norwich have only had 4 different goal scorers in 7 games in all competitions. That's quite poor. So who else steps up and scores? Will we have more goal scorers from midfield? Will Ante Sinat pop up with a few important goals and sort of repay his price tag? Or are Norwich just maybe destined for what they saw under Daniel Farke in their first sort of transitional season in a long time? And we're in for a bit of a bumpy ride, but ultimately we'll probably be comfortable enough to avoid any scare of relegation, it seems.
Yeah, it feels like, for me anyway, Freddie, I don't know about you two. I think the biggest difference here is that we spent so much money on Ante Srnac, and you look at our other options on the right-hand side, and it's an academy prospect in Gabe Forsyth, and it is Oscar Schwartau, who was a much lesser fee compared to Srnac. And I don't want to put too much pressure on Srnac, but it feels like when you come in with such a big fee, you have to also showcase your qualities right now as well. I think Norwich would have hoped for that as well, but it just feels like it's quite like short off the pace, really. And then it feels like you get so much problems as well. I think quite a poignant way to describe yesterday was I saw a lot of people kind of correlate back to last season and say about Gabriel Sara and Jonathan Rowe. If they were there, they could have maybe sprung some magic. And yes, I kind of do agree with that sentiment, actually. But the thing is, right now, we don't have that. And that is quite a big cause for concern. And it feels like right now, in order for Norwich to get a win at this level, all the team has to play well. And I'm not saying that isn't doable across the whole season. I think like there's enough games that Norwich can win to be quite a competent side at this level. But it feels like everyone has to be off the same hymn sheet. And right now, especially in that attacking 3 behind Sargent, there's too much inconsistency there. And I know it's quite a difficult topic because it feels like there's a lot of players who need to try and find their feet at this level. Obviously, Cernach, Thorson, etc., etc. It just feels like they need something to kind of go back for them, and it feels like as well they are quite big confidence players. And I don't know, it just feels like to me from Thorson, he showed so much quality in the game against Sheffield United, a lovely assist, and played very, very well against Blackburn and Sheffield United. But it feels like from that injury he's sustained against Palace, he just isn't as confident anymore. It feels like he's just losing like a bit of technical quality in and around the final third, and that isn't what Norwich need right now. Because although you can say Sarah and Rowe are brilliant, what you can't say is that Borja Sainz is the level of them, because he isn't yet. There's still some inconsistency in Borja Sainz. He needs to be more creative for the team, and it feels like right now, although he's got so much potential, Borja, it feels like he needs to show more kind of promise and consistency in his performances, because Jessica's got quite an important goal for Norwich, but it feels like right now as well, he isn't being too creative. It feels like another game, especially away from home, that Norwich haven't kind of created an XG larger than 1. It just feels a bit too static right now for Norwich. There isn't too much chances that being created without the home kind of crowd like getting behind them, really. I don't know the solutions for that. It feels like Cernach is that kind of guy which is going to get Thorup's trust for the price tag. But it is an ideal situation like that. And you kind of got 2 goal scorers, and one of them is still quite raw and a bit inconsistent. Obviously, Sutton is our main man, but it just feels like right now there isn't too much kind of like 7 out of 10s every week right now. It feels like you've got a core of McLean and Doyle and Sargent, which will give you really, really good performances. But it feels like the team needs to kind of like integrate into one to try and get some wins. And right now, the team have fallen short of that. And of course, with it being young players as well, I'm not surprised about that. But it's definitely an area which one of Thorson, one of Shortell, they've got to stand up, because right now it's very unsustainable to see Size and Sargent scored all the goals for Norwich. It needs to be more people, and unfortunately right now it's just those two, and that's going to cause us more problems going forward.
I wouldn't worry, guys. We're absolutely fine. We've got 2 players who are coming back from injury who are going to be absolutely fantastic in Ashley Barnes and Christian Fasnacht. Who knows? They might be the difference in a weird way. Bear with me. If you have Barnes on the bench as the substitute striker, it then allows Cernat to play as a right wing / striker / whatever tactical system you want. You then have Fassi on the bench as an option to come on. Again, we'll touch on it with the youth of the players that we've signed. This, unfortunately, is going to be a side effect of the transfer strategy that we've gone for. Players just kind of needing a lot of boost in confidence and needing kind of a big moment. I think, like Will said, I think being at home will really help them to develop. But I think there's too many sort of itty-bitty mistakes. Now, I don't think there was loads of errors. It wasn't by any means a Plymouth 6, Norwich 2. This team is not calamitous by any stretch. They're just not quite there. And I think it is really just a reflection of what we have predicted from the start of the season, that we will not be in amongst the bigger boys looking at the playoffs, and we will not be dwindling near the bottom. We will just be kind of milling in the middle. I really, really, really would like to be wrong on that. But yeah, it's a lot of kind of young players that have obviously never played in England, and some of them have played quite a lot of senior matches, and a lot of money spent on them. It will just unfortunately take time. But what are we now? 2024, and Onel Hernandez comes on and has a promising substitute performance. That I don't want to critique Onel, but it's 2024. I mean, Nottingham Forest on Boxing Day was lovely, but that was 2018. That was 6 years ago. Yeah, 6 years ago. It was 5 years ago the other day that we beat Man City. I'm going to plug that. Whee! Had to drop it in. It's a good thing that no, I'm not going to mention them because then I'll get a yellow card. But they couldn't do it. Anyway, you mentioned stats there, Will. Freddie, did you have any stats from the Swansea match?
Yes, I do, and they're
Oh,
rather
good.
stark. I can't remember. I can't remember them off the top of my head, so I'll have to read them on my phone and read them out to you. Shot accuracy 23%, tackle accuracy 64%, pass accuracy in the attacking half 67%, 69 passes into the final third for Norwich compared to Swansea, who had 99. So that pretty much tells you the story of the game. I know football isn't fully determined by stats. You've got to watch it with your eyes, but I was lucky enough not to watch it with my eyes. And by the sounds of it, I don't think I should have done. But hey-ho, that's what can we do about it? But another stat, Norwich had an expected goals of 1.22. Yay. And Swansea had 0.44. So, Will, your statistic that you love about Norwich are yet to give up an XG of 1 in a league game. They still haven't, but they conceded a goal, and that's arguably more important. But anywho, that's some bit of doom and gloom reading for you, statistically speaking. But funny that you both touch on the wide options and the bit of struggle Norwich have got there. Looking at right wing, they are a bit sparse. You have Sienat, who might start and isn't necessarily a natural winger. Svartau, who isn't a natural winger and is only 18 years old with a handful of first-team appearances to his name. Kai Gordon, who's joined on loan and is yet to feature as a Norwich City player. Then Fastnacht is out injured and isn't exactly the greatest winger in the world, but do they have to do a bit more deep diving, maybe, in the wide options? Do maybe they have to look at some free agents, maybe, just to try and arguably give themselves a bit of quality going forward and maybe find a bit of a steal and get a goal scorer, maybe, because, again, it's tough at the moment in an attacking sense because, as Will said, no one is stepping forward and wanting to be the man to make the difference and score a goal that isn't Sargent, who scores all of our goals anyway, or Sainz, who, when Sargent doesn't score, he does. So do Norwich maybe have to look at some free agents, maybe, just to bolster the attacking options and have a bit more sort of strength to their side? Because looking at the bench of the named substitutes, to me personally, it looked thin. It looked weak. There was a lot of youngsters on the bench who haven't had much impact in first-team football, and there's no one really there who, well, apart from Onel Hernandez, who's great against tired legs. He's quick and he's a bit tricky at times, but you would then have other players such as Liam Gibbs, who the first thing he did was pass the ball out of play, and is a player who really hasn't had a good spell with Norwich. It's been unfortunate for him. He's been tried in a lot of different positions, hasn't worked. It's been frustrating for both parties, but do Norwich maybe need to start looking at maybe some free transfers just to maybe bolster this squad up a little bit, because it is thin.
I think with this particular subject is I've seen quite a few different lineups across the opening games. So we obviously had the side against Blackburn. We had Senach against Sheffield United, and we had Schwartau yesterday against Swansea. And I think I said actually during the pre-season, I said what Norwich need to do is actually give these players like a run a few games, and I used Kamara as a case study. And I think what you've got to do actually is try and give these guys a run of games, because what we've seen actually in the last 3 games is we've seen Thorup kind of change his squad and team, especially on the right-hand side, quite a lot. And I feel like he'll probably do it again against Watford. And it feels like, for me, I just need a bit like a bit more patience in that role, because I feel like Thorup needs to find the right solution there, and I feel like he needs to kind of give them like a few more games. Obviously, a player you didn't mention there, Freddie, was also Gabe Forsyth, and I think obviously Gabe Forsyth is a very, very competent player in that right pocket role, and yes, he can play there, and he can get his effort on the ball as well. But he could also actually play in the attacking midfield role, actually behind the striker as well. And it just feels like right now we don't really have anyone to kind of say yes, you can start there like throughout the season. Really, it kind of all feels like quite mixed and jumbled right now. I don't think anyone has kind of showcased their consistency. Obviously, we're still yet to see Kay Gordon actually, and I wouldn't be surprised if he actually starts against Watford. It just feels like Thorup wants to try and find the right solution, which he wants to kind of persist with on a long-term basis. I think ideally he wants that to be certain, actually, because obviously the money spent on him was quite astronomical. But I think for me, obviously, I've obviously watched Forsyth play quite a lot, and I can kind of know what he can actually bring to the team. And actually, I think Gabe Forsyth is a player that I would actually like look to play in the games coming up. I think maybe it's because I'm kind of used to his qualities and like I know what he can do. And obviously, I think what Norwich need right now is actually good technical quality around the attacking third. And I know if Forsyth is utilised correctly, he can absolutely provide that. But unfortunately, right now, it just feels like he's a bit too unsure, and he doesn't really know who like his best team in the attacking area. I'll definitely look to play Forsyth in that role. I feel look, I know it's quite a big call compared to the likes of Cernach, etc., but I think for me, when I watch Forsyth play, I know what he could do in that role, and I feel like his left foot qualities are so strong. He just needs time to kind of bed in. Maybe that's me just being a bit favouritist in that position there, but I think each of them brings some kind of unique qualities. I think Cernach kind of gives you that bit more speed and quality in the attacking area when it comes to a bit of like physical play. But I think Gabe kind of gives you that like technical quality as well, which Norwich are lacking right now. As showcased in the last 10 minutes of the game against Swansea, Norwich could have got a point out of this game, and maybe we would have kind of looked back at this game and think, actually, it's not a bad point, especially after the first game back as well. So maybe context is actually quite important, but I feel like not actually technical quality right now, and I'm just not convinced Schwartau is the guy on the right. I think it's more of a central player. What I've seen of Schwartau is, and when he's been good is when he's been kind of catching the ball on the half turn in central spaces, and I feel like he's definitely a better player when like he's got players like quite close to him, because he can like link the play up quite effectively. But I feel like Gabe's got a bit more quality on his left foot to try and start quite dangerous attacks. And it feels like right now Norwich's biggest problem is trying to create a big volume of attacks. Right now it feels like we're creating about maybe 10 chances per game, and like one or two of them are quite a big chances. So I think I would opt for Gabe's technical quality, but I think that's probably because I know what he can do when I've seen him on his best form. I don't know how you guys see it. I reckon you probably go for someone like Cernach and try and trust obviously Napa and Thorup that they've got this signing right. Am I correct in saying that, or do you guys actually look to play Forsyth or Schwartau? Kind of where's like kind of like a head at right now in terms of the right wing swap? Because obviously I know it isn't like quite like a right wing kind of positioning game, but it feels like there's definitely a player there that needs to kind of step up.
Yeah, I think the last thing you want to do is shoehorn someone. We obviously saw that with Dean Smith and Josh Sargent being played as a right winger, and it just not working. As much as he tried, I mean, we might as well just re-sign Pookie. Actually, that wouldn't be a bad idea. How much do you think he's worth? Minnesota won't mind. Maybe we can just like steal him in the night. Actually, he was in England. Why didn't we do it then? Oh, that would have been so much easier. Oh, anyway, in terms of going into the free agents and sort of needing to panic free buy someone, that would indicate that Napa and Thorup didn't really have a plan, and that kind of, you know, I think when we look back on the window, generally we're all quite happy with it. A lot of kind of money was spent, good quality young players, the type of players that we actually wanted came in. But there's also an argument to say that maybe Napa and Thorup's plans had Jonathan Rowe in them, and maybe his decision at the last moment to leave for Marseille was a series of events that wasn't anticipated. I think it should have been anticipated that someone would have come in for him, given the season that he had. But yeah, it doesn't feel like there's a contingency plan. But when you do, you look at the team, Cade Gordon on loan, an out-and-out right winger, that's guaranteed, tick. Unfortunately, as much as we don't like to admit that he exists, Christian Fassnacht does exist. And he is, clearly probably one of the highest paid players in the squad and one of the more senior players in the squad. We cannot ignore his existence. If we did want to ignore his existence, we should have just put him on loan or sold him. I think that there will be an answer to the question of what we should do with the right wing position. We don't know it yet, and it will just take some matches to figure it out. From what I've seen of Cernat, I think he's probably the option. But as I've alluded to before, you play him at right wing, you play Sargent up front, you then don't have a striker on the bench until Ashley Barnes is fit, and then he's your striker to come off the bench. But come on, that's an ideal striker to, 15 minutes to go, you need someone to, knee someone in the kidney or sort of, scoop a ball as he's falling over into the back of the net. Maybe we don't need to go into the free agents for a winger, maybe a striker. I don't know any strikers who are free agents. Dwight Gale's just been signed by Hibs. Martin Waghorn. Oh no, he played for no. Played for Derby. Anthony Martial. Is he or did he sign for someone? I can't remember. Paul Mullin. There we go. We'll again.
Christ.
We'll force Wrexham to release him, and then we will sign him on a free, just to fit our narrative. I don't know. I don't know any free agents apart from that. So yeah, we're just going to have to deal with Fassnacht on the right. It'll be fine.
No, can't even sign Hwang Ujou. He's gone to Turkey. It's so unfair. It's not fair. I wanted my Korean prince back, even if he was a little bit of a dodgy bloke. But no, we'll always have those 10 minutes at Watford. That was good fun. But anyhow, after a little bit of a diversion, but we'll go straight back onto it. Just sort of one last point, really, before we deep dive into some hot takes. Just really, in terms of individuals and performances, Callum Doyle, superb. Again, proves the point. He should not be playing at this level. He's far too good for this level. Even when Norwich are losing games and looking really poor, he is by far the standout performer. A lot of poor performances at Saints for one. Forson again. So, just, of course, both of them really, well, Saints could have won the game for Norwich, let alone saved a point with the chances he had. Forson effectively lost Norwich the game. They, unfortunately, with the scoreline, him scoring an own goal, he lost Norwich the game. That is a narrative which people may take. Of course, that's not to say it was all his fault, but just quite a few, just not many decent performances sort of all around the pitch. A lot of players just not really at it, which is a shame because we know that this style of football, once it's flowing, could really work. Again, maybe this is a sign that it could just be players are rusty and they're still learning it, or maybe there could be a cause for concern and this style of play just may not work. It may be a bit too predictable at times, but the last thing a new manager should do is doubt the style that he's used to and end up changing his plans to try and get results. That is just not really how it works. The only time you should ever do that is if you are a championship team who are promoted, because if you play the way you usually do and you play out from the back, you will get tonked. Russell Martin, I'm looking at you, my good friend. But no, what are you saying there, Jack? I didn't hear that.
Oh, I knew that was coming.
No.
If Cameron Archer had scored that penalty, it would all be different. But I had Matthias de Ligt in my fantasy team, so I'm not complaining.
You also had Evan Nilsson who missed a penalty.
Yeah, I did have what's his name? Evan Nilsson. Yeah, I had him up front. Yeah, when Bournemouth got that penalty, I thought I was quids in. Yeah, I'm going to keep him in out of stubbornness, and he will come good. He won't do a Van Wolfswinkel, but I might have cursed myself.
Yeah. I had Gabriel who scored and got a clean sheet. That's always quite nice. That's very good. But anyhow, on to let me just sit. There should be another point here somewhere as I worriedly scroll through the agenda to try and find something to talk about. Well, here we go. One more point. A question for you, Will. The youth teams, how did they get on? Because I genuinely don't know, unfortunately. I wish I knew and had looked so that it would make me seem a bit more knowledgeable. But you are the expert, of course. So was it any better for the youth sides this weekend, or was it just a really bad week all around?
Well, I think, Freddie, you were talking about how good Callum Doyle was again for the 50th billion time, and I think we can all agree about that. Yeah, definitely a player who has got enormous potential, but just like quite a few others, really. Yes, it wasn't a great weekend for the under 21s and 18s from a result perspective. I think we've only had one win now since the start of the season between both age groups, but I'm not going to focus on that too much. I don't think it was, as Freddie puts his hands on his eyes for the Spotify listeners. I'm more looking at the performance kind of stuff, especially throughout this season, especially when it's going to be quite a complex style for them all to grasp. It actually feels like the under 18s are probably getting there a bit more ahead of the 21s. It feels like the under 18s are kind of finding some really good passages of play. They played to quite a good standard. They were actually, despite obviously going down to 10 men quite stupidly against Palace with 2 tactical yellow cards in the first half, I thought they were absolutely brilliant. They were the instigators of the game, and I think that is quite a key talking point, especially for how they're going to play this season. They played bravely through the lines. A few players to keep your eyes on as well. Rita Mundell was absolutely excellent. He is Romain Mundell's brother, who's now playing for Sunderland. Really, really good midfielder, like an all-action A, wins so many duels, covers so much ground, and has got a really, really good technical game. I've been really impressed by him recently. Obviously, he scored last week as well for the under-18, so a very, very promising start for him. I also thought left-back Jaden Owen as well. Jaden has kind of been playing as more of like an attacker recently because he's more of like an attacking focus fullback, but he's now back at left back, rotating with a Turkish international called Vatan Özkan, and he's doing really, really well. Really, really good attacking display by him. So much quality, really good from a physical perspective, and he's really grasping the new system well. The under 21s, it hasn't been a great start. In all truth, it feels like yes, they're quite efficient from a build-up play perspective, but it feels like right now for them, their challenge is actually trying to be a bit more productive in the final third compared to the first team. Actually, they're playing quite nicely in the defensive third, but they're just lacking a bit of bravery to kind of play through the lines and through to the strikers in the attacking third. It feels like the kind of like the kind of attacking threat and pace coming from Aaron Mundell-Smith, and obviously Brandon Forbes actually got his first assist actually from the club as well. So they both kind of showcase individual quality in the final third, and it feels like that's what it's kind of been for the 21s recently. They haven't scored enough goals, and I feel like they would have wanted to score more goals. They've got some really good players, but it just needs more time to kind of click into gear. But the thing is, for the group, they've got quite a tough games coming up. They've got to go away to Southampton, which isn't an easy game, and then they start their actual international cup campaign against Sparta Prague. It'd be absolutely great to see as many Norwich fans down to those games as possible. Really, there's going to be 7 to 8 Norwich 21s games this season at Carrow Road. So they play Sparta Prague, and then they play Man United as well at home. All next week, I think, or the week after, I think it is. Yes, the 24th and the 27th of September. So on the Tuesday and Friday night, they play then. So it'd be great to see so many people down there to support the team. It's going to be quite an interesting game, I think. I think Norwich probably go for their strongest teams. Obviously, we saw guys that Tompkinson and Warner didn't get a loan move, so I probably expect those who to kind of play in the International Cup as quite a big tournament for the youth players. Obviously, I think I actually wouldn't be shocked either to see the likes of Brad Hills, Fisher, for Cyprus actually play for that competition as well. So just to keep their fitness. So it's quite an exciting time ahead for the whole academy, really. But there needs to be a bit more attacking kind of dynamism, in the attacking third. It feels a bit too flat right now, but they've got the quality. They just got to kind of believe in themselves like a little bit more. I think it's more of like a personal thing on how they can actually try and showcase the confidence levels into actual performances because they've got the quality. But right now, a bit too short. But I'm sure they'll all get there, really. But hopefully they can start winning along with the first team. But right now, it feels like the team are just trying to build from a more of a play-style perspective. Similar to the first team, really. Obviously, it's quite a lot of change right now for the team, and it feels like I feel like at times across the season, actually, I don't know about you guys, but it feels like it's quite hard to kind of like judge a team kind of and quite thoroughly because it feels like it's still so new and the players actually like need time to flourish. I think this season especially I kind of said I want to give them like at least 10 games to kind of see okay where are we at and like where can we get to, and right now it feels like we're sort of a bit unsure like where like we could get to as a team. We've seen the upside, we've seen the downside. So right now I just want to kind of give like every kind of team that I watch involved with Norwich a bit of time, and I think that's the best way forward. I don't know, guys, where you kind of see it, but do you kind of see it probably be like a mid-table finish for Norwich this season so far on your early impressions, or do you want to see like a few more games to kind of differentiate what's going to happen?
I personally think there's sort of polarized reactions sort of from Coventry and then from Swansea. If I were to do the vibometer again, which I might do at the end of the season, that was good fun for last season. It kind of went very high against Coventry, beating a team away from home that was expected to be in the playoffs. Fantastic, fantastic, wonderful. Oh, we lose 1-0 to Swansea, but don't get thrashed. Oh my word, we're doomed. We're going to get relegated. Everything is terrible. I just think we're just quite impatient and quite itchy, and I think it's the lack of goals. I think it's the lack of like entertainment. And I think always looking back at the Wagner era and the Smith era, everyone says they were boring and they were negative, but we still managed to score lots of goals. Not as many as we'd like, obviously, under those two managers' stewardship. There's a lot of clips online this week about classic moments in classic games by classic players, leathering it in from distance. And the counter rhetoric is how certain Spanish managers at the very top of the English game have amended slightly the approach to English football, shall we say, and how it's a little bit more delicate and a little bit more tippy-tappy, and how some people would just like it if someone thundersmacked it in from 30 yards. I'm not going to lie, I kind of agree with that to an extent. I think you need a combination of both. I think you need the beautiful, elegant, passing, Pep-esque football. But we've got players that can score stonkers in the team. Marcelino has proved it. Kenny has proved it in the past.
Jack Stacey.
Jack Stacey, has he scored a stonker ever?
Sarcasm included.
Maybe, yeah. I mean, Buffy even like just a
What, sorry, Jack?
just a,
Please elaborate.
just a. I don't need to give it any more. Just a big stonking header. I'm going to keep my hair like this for the Spotify listeners. I'm up in the curtains. You'll have to watch it on YouTube. I'm sorry. This is dreadful. Oh my word! I'm going to keep it. Where was I? I've completely lost my point.
Stonking headers.
Stonking. Yeah. We want one of them. Yeah, I think we've got players that are capable of scoring worldies. Obviously, you don't expect a worldie in every match, but I feel like at the moment there's a hesitancy and there's a need to find the intricate pass and get it to the perfect spot in the box where someone can lightly tap it in. I just want a rocket, I want something. Get me out of my seat, Thorup. That's my rally cry to you. And then I'll get my hair gelled like this permanently.
Please don't. No, but, one Norwich team who actually got it right this weekend were the women's team. They played in the FA National Women's League Plate. They played Brighton and Hove Women, their academy side. They beat them 1-0 thanks to a Hope Strauss penalty. So there you go. So Henry's stat about Hope Strauss never missed a penalty. That stays intact. I believe he said that was after what he said, that should now be 7 penalties taken, 7 penalties scored. So at least one Norwich team decided to win a game this weekend. That's very nice. But Will, I think your point about the younger side needing time and everything, and then they'll need obviously better coaching to fully learn how to do the style of football right. We know that Johannes Thorup, he said in his very first fan forum at the forum about how it's the academy sides are going to play similar football. So it is a perfect correlation really to the first team. Everything you said was pretty much spot on with what everyone's expecting. And Jack, your point about the contrast of reactions, I think the problem is maybe Norwich fans, with of course how well we've done in this division in the last few seasons and what we're used to in this division with this football club, I think the expectations are always naturally very high. I think it also doesn't help that our side under David Wagner got into the playoffs, albeit it was sort of just dragged their way in there, still got in there and was 1 game away from Wembley and 1 game away from 2 games away at one point from being what could have been a Premier League team, which would have been very interesting to see. But I just think the problem is with how well Norwich can do and historically have done, fans are expecting dominance. They expect to be brilliant. And now that we have what was first thought a better manager with a better play style, with more exciting players and younger ones, everyone maybe got a bit carried away and maybe now we're getting carried away in a negative sense because we've realised, hang on, this has been a really bad start. We don't have many goal scorers. What's going on, Neil? It goes from one extreme to the other. But that just seems to be, football's a very reactionary game. I'm a very reactionary fan. I won't hide away. I was raving when we beat Coventry, and I was ranting at the start of this because we were subpar against the team we are better than on paper. That's no disrespect to Swansea as a team and their players. We just have got arguably a better squad for this division that is capable of beating that side. But then again, we didn't beat them last season, so maybe that's just what it is. But
I think
anyhow, go on, Will. Go on.
No, sorry, mate. I was listening to a fellow fan the other day, and I think he made actually quite a good point. Actually, I think this season, although obviously we expect it to be quite a slow one and transition based, I found actually made quite a good point actually yesterday, and it kind of got me thinking actually, and I do kind of agree with him. It feels like we could build all we want, but in reality, if we do finish 12th next season, we'll still see Josh Sargent probably leave next summer. And then you think, gosh, maybe could actually get like even worse because he is such a key player to us. I know the saying in football is that like every player can be replaceable, but it just feels like if it's still like quite like a linear season in terms of 12th place, 13th place, you're at risk of losing like yet another like a very good player. I know like then it comes back to again Norwich needing to try and be smart in the transfer window and trying to find that right person. But it feels like I don't know about you guys, but if I trust a Napa to kind of sign someone in such an ilk for Norwich, I don't know if you could find that kind of a person because I think Sargent is so like key to how we play. He gives us so much from like a general game. He gives us like running in behind to feet aerially as well. So I think it's quite an important thing to bear in mind that although yes it could be like quite a slow season. Next year we're actually probably at risk of losing Sargent, and then the cycle kind of gets even worse, like before it gets better. So I think it's quite an important point to realise that although I feel like next season, I feel like already it's kind of getting like a bit pressurised in terms of actually this first season we actually want to try and build, but it feels like if we go into next season and Sargent actually goes, like I'm actually going to go backwards again. So that's kind of like a kind of thing that I want to kind of like pose to both of you is that I feel like yes, although it's actually like really good that we're trying to build this season, but it just feels like there's always that like big risk there where like it feels like it could get worse before like it gets better in some ways.
I will jump in on this. I think if you're selling your best players and replacing them for players who are half the quality but around the same age, if not older, then that's a backward step, obviously. But clearly what Norwich have looked at and have realised and kind of analysed with all of their magical stats is that, you know, the beauty of what we're trying to achieve is find the gems young, build them up in the Norwich style, and then integrate them with the team and then make them, you know, the natural successors. Obviously, Sargent and Gunn are two signings that we made in the Premier League. And, you know, they are the kind of relics of that era. The further we get away from that hallowed Premier League era, you know, the more difficult it is going to be to find that ilk of players. It's difficult because in one hand you'd kind of say, well, Norwich in terms of like the stature and the idea of us as a club, from an external player's perspective and external club's perspective, is that we are a relatively top 26 club that, you know, has financial stability, has got Premier League pedigree in at least the last decade for quite a bit. You know, there are still going to be players that we could attract as a result of that natural infrastructure. But then you could say the same for something like a Birmingham City or a Sunderland, who are two much bigger clubs than us and thus are still kind of, you know, having the same kind of struggles as us. We obviously sold Sarah and replaced him with Forson. That's obviously a backward step. We sold Rowe and replaced him with whoever we replaced him with, Schwarto or whatever. That's a backward step. We are naturally backward stepping. But what are we supposed to do? Spend 10 to 20 million pounds on players that are better than them? We just can't do that. We can't really complain. We just have to deal with the cards that we've got, and just hope and pray that we've signed good young players that aren't necessarily Greek.
Good point at the end.
Yeah, no. For me, don't care. Just score goals. The player, whoever comes in, just do your job. Do
Very Roy Keane from you there, Freddie.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't care. Just play your game. Be good at it. If you're coming to a championship club like Norwich, then that have ambition, match it. better yourself as a player and prove yourself. That's what
I'm
football's
pumped
all
now.
about.
Thanks, Freddie. I'm pumped for that. I needed
No,
that.
exactly.
After
That's
quite a lot of
what football's all
sadness.
about.
I
You
needed
come
it.
to a
I
club
needed
with
that.
ambition, who want to be a Premier League team and want to try and establish themselves. Do what you've done since you were 4 years old. Put the ball in the net and do what you need to do for your teammates. Someone who's on loan from Manchester City understands it. Get everyone else here on a permanent to understand it. Get the cohesion and bloody tonk this bloody league. Do what you need to do and do it well, please. Otherwise, I will cry on the next podcast episode after we lose to Watford. But anyhow, from long-winded opinions and rally cries to quick-fire ones with probably a lot of laughs. So we haven't got Henry, but we'll still go for it. And you know what, Jack? In the absence of Henry, I want you to answer your own questions, please, this time around. Here we go. Jack's got some hot takes for us, as always. Some five questions to try and get some content out of us, which we never clip, but I pretend I didn't say that. But anyhow, Jack, questions, please. And because there's no Henry, I'd like to hear your own answers.
Absolutely fine. Before we get on to the quickfire hot takes, I do just want to say massive congratulations to all of the Norwich fans that travelled to Swansea. Big up to the away fans. I've done it. It's not ideal. I was in that cohort that had to have their tickets refunded when Jonathan de Guzman scored. Yeah, I was there.
That's the Barclays man right there, isn't it? Wow.
Barclays man.
Oh, you ruined my question. No!
Oh, no. Oh, brilliant. Go on. Do it. Ask.
You knew it was coming after the week that we had, whatever. Anti-man of the match against Swansea.
Forson has to be.
Oh, yeah, Forson.
I'm going to say either Borja or Ben Cresceni. Don't.
Valid.
Who is the best Norwich Welshman who isn't Ewan Roberts?
Marley Watkins.
Oh my God, no!
I know who you want me to say, but I'm not going to say it.
Well, Andrew Crofts, surely.
Oh, I was going to go for Craig Bellamy.
Yeah, exactly. I knew exactly who you wanted to be said.
Well, it could be Marley Watkins. It could. What is the first live Norwich goal that you remember seeing?
A Wesley Hoolahan penalty on my 8th birthday when we beat Leicester 4-3 at Carrow Road. I don't remember any other goal.
Wow. Well,
for me, actually, it was an absolute blockbuster. It was a 6-0 game when we saw a Jackson hat-trick and a Holt hat-trick.
the Scunthorpe.
Huh?
Scunthorpe.
Scunthorpe, yeah. That's Scunthorpe, yeah. Yeah. Superb. 6-0.
Wow. I cannot remember. I honestly, like, I remember going to Carrow Road when I was probably 3 and not liking the noise, which in hindsight was a good thing because then it was clearly too loud. That would probably be 1998. So before Freddie was even born. Darren Eady probably scored. Let's go with that. Prime Aarons or prime Russell Martin?
Prime Aarons. Russell Martin was bang average at best.
I think you coming from this from a right back perspective. So I'm going to go for Max Aarons.
Yeah, I would say Max Aarons too. I couldn't really think of a better right back in our recent history. Andre Wisdom.
Man, he's a baller, man.
Question 5. Who is the ultimate Norwich Barclaysman?
Well, it has to be Holt. And there's no one else. It simply cannot be anyone else. He made Ledley King retire.
Do you know what, Jack? I was praying, like, you would give us like a more like natural kind of like all-time Barclays man, because I had an absolute banger lined up for you. So now I'm a bit sad.
Question.
Sorry?
That'll be our next question, but go on, I'll answer your Norwich
I thought
one.
we had 5 anyway.
This is the fifth question.
I'll go a bit different from Freddie, and I'm going to go for Mbok.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm going to Mbakane, yeah. Yeah, absolutely, mate. And can I say my all-time one, or is that for later?
Yes, go on.
Kenwyn Jones, you stole my heart. Absolute Barclays, mate. Target man, dreadlocks, ponytail, everything. Everything. Kenwyn Jones.
Mine would be what was the name of the Blackburn striker who did the belly flop celebration?
Not Yakubu.
What was his name? Was it Guti? Something, was it that? I can't remember, but he played for Blackburn and he scored some screamers. Kevin Nolan's up there. I'm amazed no one's done an edit of him yet.
Yeah.
That's quite but
Andy Carroll for me is definitely up there. West Ham days, superb.
I did see a Kevin Nolan edit. You gotta look deep into it. I mean, my heart is with Cameron Jerome. Because he's Barclays, isn't he? I did always like Hatton Ben Arfa back in the day.
Oh, what a shout!
Yeah.
Do you know what, guys? I want to see some Barclaysmen in the comment section, because across this week I've just manifested them all week. You know, I went from Yakubu to Stefan Sessegnon. Like, Stefan Sessegnon is an absolute baller. I completely forgot about the bloke. And then Gabriel Obertan. I've had everything. So if you guys could better Gabriel Obertan, I want to see it down in the comments below. Thank you.
Gabriel Obertan, steering me.
I didn't even give my Norwich Barclaysman. Anthony Pilkington.
Oh yes,
yeah, he was.
And cracking edit, by the way, Jack. I loved it.
Yeah, some great.
All three of them did very well. I was gassed with all of them. Just the amount of love from just non-Norwich fans towards all of the video, especially the Grant Holt one. I think it was just a blast from the past, and it was just, you forget pretty much all of the big teams he scored against. United, Arsenal, City, Chelsea twice. You know, he was just captain, leader, legend. Scored 3 goals against and never got relegated with Norwich, which is an incredible stat. Like, unbelievable. But
and here we are now, 10 years later.
much later than 10 years. Gosh, a bit about 11 or 12 years now. But anyone watching, please go and watch my Grant Holt video. I spent 5 minutes editing it, but enjoy it.
Yeah, no, I've found that Blackburn guy. He was a midfielder, actually. His name, Two Guy.
Yes.
I think, yeah. He
was banger. Yeah.
Yeah, he's my ultimate. That's my ultimate one. But anyway, there you have it. I'm amazed we've actually got over an hour, considering there's only 3 of us. So yet another video over an hour for everyone to enjoy before we inevitably don't upload anything in midweek again. No, I'm sure we will. I'm sure there'll be a bit
for the
more.
listeners.
We'll make sure to, because we can get back on track. But anyway, there's all of your long-winded opinions, your fun, your nonsense, your everything, really, here on the MyFootballWriter YouTube channel or Spotify account, whether you're watching or listening. I've been Freddie Humphrey Wakefield. They have been Will Grant and Jack Wright. It is goodbye for now, and we will see you for either the next video of ours or the next podcast of ours on the channel or on Spotify. It's goodbye for now, and we will see you then.